This episode of Grade 43 is brought to you by On Trajectory. See where your money is taking you at ontrajectory.com.
Somewhere out there is a class that has no teacher, a grade that leads to no degree. Recess is all but a memory. The children call the shots and the pets are merciless. There are no meetings, but there are still conference calls and always homework. Two middle-aged men with a guitar problem in the form of a podcast. Welcome to Grade 43. Get off my lawn.
My voice is primed. I always blow out my voice at bars.
Okay. Oh, that sucks. That's the worst. I know exactly what you mean. Like you come home and you're talking to people and they're like, why are you talking like that? You're like, what do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It was great. I had a good time. I talked to Steve.
Right, exactly.
I haven't seen him in years. And
Steve
then the
in financing. I kind of had to go. Well, I'm going to hit record. Well,
yes.
Do we want to? Yeah, I guess we could capture some of this. Okay. I got lucky because we don't do a lot of events for my company. It's like a couple times a year. So that makes me happy. And this was 8 minutes from my house. So
you can't beat
there's
that.
people coming from Florida. So it's like, I got to go. I can't like leave them all hanging. And
minimally, I mean, no matter what, like the minimum level of involvement you could have shown up and then been like, oh my God, I got to go check on my kid. She's literally right down the street. And then you just never show back up again.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Save that for next time.
That's a good one. Definitely people were not leaving. You know, this is like a once a year thing. We're not 20-year-olds. So once you get the permission to leave the house, you're kind of like, I'll see you tomorrow. Like I'm going. So yeah. Yep. It was good. Good. Anyway, damn, dude. Are we on? Was that our cold open already? Or
is that our cold open?
I don't know. Could be. We're not like veteran podcasters, but we do have, as you like to say it, an album's worth. So
that's right. Yeah. Well, you know, most podcasts I know all start with the sentiment that they're back. Like they went away. It's almost like object permanence doesn't exist among podcast listeners, right? Because every podcast host comes back and goes, all right, we're back. Just like we do.
Right. Okay, we're back. Right. Love it. That's great. Now I just need to find our file so I can remember I have a million topics that I want to talk about, you know?
Yeah, this is definitely whatever sticks to the fridge kind of stuff, but we have a lot of different ingredients, I feel like.
Oh my goodness. No, I mean, like, I'm excited about today. Yeah. I'm excited.
I do have a piece of follow-up.
Yes.
That's critical.
Yes.
But I think it works out because we gave people a lot of time to absorb the last episode that we did with Shaker.
Which is needed, right?
Which is needed. And I didn't realize how much it was needed until I was told by my loving family that a 26-minute music segue was a little bit unexpected. We should have told people about that or done something to it. I was like, whatever, there was chapters. So...
Was there a 26-minute segue?
You know what I think what it was when we recut the episode, fans a little bit behind the curtain, I grabbed the wrong MP3 file because like I couldn't find the original one and I just assumed it was the short one. Yeah. And I guess I just kind of visually got lost in the tape and was like, yep, there we go. That's good.
Did your family listen to it? How do they know there's a 23-minute musical segue?
They did science, I think. I don't know. I haven't even they could be lying. I haven't even gone back to check myself.
That's
but it sounds believable. It totally sounds believable.
It does.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was my follow-up. And I think I put a note in there. I think all the stuff that we had up above that was stuff we were going to use when we did the last one. So we're into the cold open then.
I mean, you have something about tuners.
I always have something about tuners.
I do want a tuner, and they exist. I just don't have one that is rechargeable. I'm sick of phone I don't like, or watch batteries, you know,
Yeah.
like, come on, people.
Is it a CR2025?
Oh my goodness. That just makes me, it's like having to click through 3 things if you want to sign it. It's like, nope, you just lost me as a potential customer because I'm not clicking on 3 things.
Yeah. Other than I do find like the physical properties of a watch battery kind of pleasing. It's like, it's like this little coin of a battery. It's kind of neat.
It's like more high tech, right?
So
than the big old kids battery.
Yeah. So I can recommend to you a couple rechargeable ones. One, the PRS one, which I'm partial to because I'm that guy. And then the D'Addario one it's like no bigger than a quarter.
Dude.
Yeah. We'll put a link in the notes.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome because oh my God, my headphone is pretty stuck here. 1 second. My headphones are like attached to the chair.
Everything's rusty and covered with cobwebs, and we might have to oil things halfway through.
Yeah. And I got like some allergies or something. Yeah. This is going to be part of the conversation a little bit later, but as I move towards using an amp again, it's like, I need a tuner now again. So, because like the HX Stomp has an awesome tuner on it and it's very easy to access. But if I'm not using the HX Stomp all the time, now I need to tune, and it's like I need
and tuning live is different than any other kind of application. That's where like it actually matters. I find it like super nerve wracking. So so I said it so live. So let's just jump right into that. You said something about live music with other musicians. Like
I know, right?
What is that? Tell me more about that.
I mean, like this is completely shifted everything for me, right? Like, okay, Kalimar pre-pandemic, playing in bands, practicing just enough for our band. So it's rehearsals occasionally, which means a couple of days before the rehearsal, I go and I practice 20 songs and I get ready for the show. And then pandemic hits, no more band. Okay, I'm going to brush up on guitar. 2.5 years of trying to stay focused on practicing guitar, but then often going off on rabbit holes that are not useful. And
modes.
Then what's that? Modes. Oh, for sure. Modes and jazz and whatever. And just like getting into, I know I would text with you like, dude, my brain, I'm like spiraling. I need to stop worrying about like whatever 3 notes per string arpeggios. I don't know, whatever the hell I might be saying. And then I'm going to go play live music. And it's like, oh, wait, what? And now I'm discovering the world of like unplanned live music. So, and I don't mean like shaker style unplanned live music.
Yeah.
I mean like, hey, here are the chords to something. Let's play it. Okay, nice to meet you all. Let's play. So jam type of thing. I've never, my whole life, I've rehearsed to play music. And the only thing that's improvised is something
like
that's
it's a talent show, right?
Yeah. And solo improvisations are like not that improvised, right? Like you just, it's not like, I didn't know I was going to play this today. And going to play with other people like this, even though I've played music my whole life, is like nerve wracking. And realizing that I don't want to have a pedal that I don't know how it's going to sound live necessarily because I don't want to crank it up in my house. And then I can't turn knobs on it because the HX Stomp is amazing. I love that piece of hardware. I was going to sell it. I don't think I'm going to sell it because it's just so cool. Does so many things. But for me, for my kind of live application, I don't need all of that. Like,
no, and you don't want to be the guy who walks in and walks up to the sound guy and goes like, "Do you have any spare HDMI cables for my set?" You know, it's like that's just whatever, like a ridiculous level of setup. Like, you got an amp, great, there it is. Like, go plug it in there. Like that's what I got for you. So you said you can't adapt to
it's very hard. Yeah. It's very hard. And when I was playing, I was like stepping on 2 pedals instead of 1 and things were happening. And like, I looked like a nincompoop and the other dude had like 1 little pedal and was like,
and a little 5-watt amp.
That's great. Well, I mean, one guy had like a 15 or 30 watt Fender amp, way too loud. He had to, I don't like that situation either. The other guy had a Spark, not really enough to compete with a drummer and other things. Like it's just Spark's cool in your house. That's great. Yes. But like I discovered the Catalyst made by Line 6. It uses the same technology as the HX Stomp. except it's for dum-dums. It's for me. It's what I need. It's not perfect if you have a lot of needs, because
it's got knobs and stuff.
It's got knobs, but like you can't do it. Like it's got an effect. It's got a reverb. I know reverb is an effect, but bear with, there's a refurb thing. There's an effect and there's a boost. You can buy a 2-pedal thing, which I bought, which allows you to turn the effect on and off. Or you could choose to switch that to whatever one thing you want to switch on and off.
One channel, though? That's one channel?
And then a channel.
Okay.
And then the channel means whatever. You can have 2 different. So there's like 6 amps in it. So you could go from here's pristine clean with tremolo and spring reverb and boost on. Mm-hmm. Click it. Okay, now it's gone to cranked Marshall with flanger, plate reverb, boost off, or whatever. Or you could have 2 channels that are very similar and the only thing that changes is the boost, whatever. Anyway, right. But that's all it can do. So if you're like super needy, and I don't mean that in a mean way, but like,
if you can't take a hint,
then you need pedals, and that's cool. That's all good. I don't care. I don't need all of that. This kind of suits 99% of my needs. And it's an interface and it has like XLR out. Like it's just got
so the effect, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
And we'll post links to this like we always do because we like using the internet. So the effect part, is it a loop such that you could loop it into some other sub processor for your other suite of effects? Like if you had a flange, chorus, delay pedal type deal going on? So
there is an effects loop.
Okay.
And you can choose to have your effects and your reverb pre or post. And I don't know how far post that is.
Okay.
So it's post something. It could be after the effects loop. I'm not sure where that lands. And where pre is probably before the preamp. No, I don't know.
That is what pre means, but I don't know.
I mean, like that's like old school pedals. If you don't have an effects loop, it all hits the preamp. So that could be it. Like, so your delay is hitting your gain stages that are in your amp. Yeah. I think you definitely hear the difference. I haven't tried the effects loop yet, but I was thinking about playing with it, but now I don't want to play with any, and we're going to get back to this, but like, I could take the HX Stomp. It has an option to turn it into not an effects loop, but just a power amp. And so then you take your HX Stomp with all your amp modeling and whatever else, and you plug it into that, and you bypass the amp's preamp and all that stuff, and you just use the power amp part of it. So what does that give you that's kind of different? Okay. Here's what it gives you that's kind of different. It gives you a guitar amp speaker, which often that's not what people buy to use with the HX Stomp. They buy like stage monitors or whatever. So here you actually have an amp speaker that sounds like an amp.
That's
so
graded
it gives you
to
more
make
of
that kind of noise. Yeah.
It gives you that amp feel.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to hear it that way.
Sounds like quite the Dr. Evil, Dr. Doofenshmirtz kind of move of like, aha, I had the HX Stomp and then I used it in the middle of this other similar, like same brand, right? Line 6.
Yeah. Same brand. That's I think they thought of that as part of it and everything anyway. So I haven't had time to do that because I'm trying to stay focused on like, why do I play music? And I hate to get like existential, but that's like where I've been. It's kind of like, why was it 2 years of kind of not feeling fulfilled? Well, it's because I wasn't performing. Like that's what I like. And maybe I would even do theater, but I don't have opportunity. I don't really go do that. So music is where I perform. I like to perform. I like to talk to the people I perform with. That's like my adrenaline rush. I was terrified. I wasn't even going to play, dude. My buddy's a drummer. Is a drummer. And I texted him. I'm like, oh, there's this blues jam going on. Cause he goes to all the blues. He didn't know about this one. And
was it down at the crossroads?
And then he all of a sudden showed up and he's like, where are you, Kalimar? And I'm like, I guess I got to go. Cause it's 5 minutes from my house. So, not where the work happy hour was, but it's a different bar. Anyway. So then I showed up and I'm like, I said, I'm not going to bring a guitar. He's like, you're bringing a guitar. I'm like, okay. I brought my guitar. I hid it in the corner. I was terrified. I've been playing music for 30 years. I was terrified.
Oh yeah.
And then I didn't put my name on the list. And then he put my name on the list. So then when it was time to switch people play, the guy's like, all right, Kalimar on guitar. And I'm like, son of a gun. Like I kind of got a sense he was doing it. And I'm glad he did it for me because I was not going to do it. I got up and played, and no one cares, dude. You can play whatever on the guitar. The only people there are other people that are going to play too. Right. And everyone is okay with you sucking, like whatever. But
that much is certain. Well, I mean, sometimes they're not okay with you sucking, but
yeah, maybe if it was like a more serious jam of some sort, I don't know, but like it's all good. So
that's really interesting because out of all of like the band scenarios that I feel I could fit in the most mediocrely, if that's a word.
Yeah.
Like, and just like like I'm there, I can pinch hit for something. It would totally be something like a blues jam.
Right.
But I can't imagine actually showing up for that. So that adds another thing to it. Like, yep, show up at,
oh, dude, and what about
waiting for a helicopter to bring Stevie Ray Vaughan down and like, he's going to step in.
Here's what we did, right? We get on stage, plug in the guitar to the amp that they have there.
Yep.
I'm not going to noodle with the amp. Hopefully the last guy didn't over noodle with the amp.
You start smacking it.
I don't, right? So I turn it on, plug it in, turn to the guy. He's like, it's going to be a jump blues in D. And then I'm like, oh, I know jump blues. And then actually I was like, is it a quick 4? And they're like, I got deers in the headlights. And I'm like, okay, that's okay. For those listening and paying attention, a quick 4 means you do one measure of 1. So let's say it's a blues in A. So that would be the 1 is A, the 4 is D like David, the 5 is E like Echo, right?
Sounds an awful lot like modes.
No mode. Stop it. I'm Mixolydian, but anyway, A, D, and E, right? So a quick 4 just means you only do one measure of the 1 and you immediately go to the 4 and then you come back to the 1 for a while before you go to the 4 again, as opposed to like 4 measures of 1 to 4 measures of 4.
Right.
So I was like, is it a quick 4 we're doing? Because that's common in jump blues.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't understand what I asked. I kind of heard it as being a quick 4, but we did. It was okay. That doesn't even matter. It's, like you're just kind of whatever.
But that's cool. That's just a cool thing to metamorphosize into. So, okay. So the first question that popped in my mind when you said, oh, it's in jump blues in D and is it quick or whatever. So how long was that song?
These are totally for people to solo and play. Right. Yeah. So it's like, felt like 5 minutes.
Okay. How much did you get to be like Nigel Tufnell and step to the front of the stage? And,
oh my God. So I got 2 rounds, right? Everyone did like soloed for 2 rounds. There was a point where I was even playing notes that I wasn't fretting accidentally. It was just like, what is that horrible? Oh, that's me. I'm literally missing the string that I'm fretting. I'm playing something else. And it's just like, okay, whatever. No one cares. But I think for something like that, and Josh, our friend Josh, has said it before too. He's like, when you go to something like that, if you want more stage time, focus on the rhythm.
Yes. Yeah.
Nail rhythm, do a lot of rhythm. You're going to be like requested to play by other people. Like, hey, go up with us or whatever.
Yeah, you can stay organized with everybody else, right? Because that's really what rhythm is. How is the song organized?
Oh,
right? How fast is the organization of it?
And like, I felt like the drummer and I were like locked, it was great. Like I can get rhythm guitar is like my jam. So then nerd Kalimar. I've done this before when I had to play for an actual event. It was like, we're going to play funk. All right. So then I went and studied my ass off with funk. So as an academician, I'm like, okay, blues. All right. So people just call it out. All right. So I need to classify the blues. Okay. So then I'm like looking up stuff that Corey Congilio has done, right? Mm-hmm. Corey Congilio is on True Fire and he has his own thing called
Working Man.
Working Class Guitar is the name of it.
That's right.
And
that's why they call him the working class guitar guy.
Yeah. Corey is amazing. And he's like complete blues guitar and he breaks it down by style. And I'm like, all right, so that's it. It's like Texas shuffle, slow Texas blues, a funk blues. Probably most people aren't going to play funk blues. Chicago, and then Chicago slow. And it's like, all right, that's it. So
Chicago with Peter Cetera.
So I'm Chicago. So that's what I did. So that's my thought process now. That's what I'm working on. It's like, I want to know 2 or 3 patterns in each of the major blues styles so that I can change it, because there's vocalists, there's stuff. And I just, it's nice to, after a round, you change your style. Yeah. And I want to nail like some turnarounds.
If you're so lucky.
Right. Turnarounds.
Yes. Remember that word. So let me ask you this, because I know that it's come up and we've talked about it before, and then we talked about modes, but we didn't necessarily map it. So for like a bit of like, oh, here's some follow-up we can do. When you look at a mode, how does a mode inherently map to any of like the styles that you just kind of referred to?
Totally.
Right. So I know there's like, whoa, this is a blues, and like, this is a blues scale. I'm like, well, what's a blues scale? There's plenty of blues that's just a pentatonic minor.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So similar to how like, like harmonic minor sounds almost like a very Middle Eastern kind of thing. So is there a mapping that, Mixolydian maps onto Chicago jump blues?
Yep. So jump blues in general. When you see a chord progression and they're like, this is an F blues, which is really the best way to say it. A blues is not an F major or F minor. It's an F blues. Why is that? Because it's not in a key. If you think about like a jump blues, let's say it's an F blues. That means, so what's the 1? The 1 is the F. Mm-hmm. What's the 4? It's the B flat.
B flat, yeah.
And then the 5 is the C. However, generally for something like a jump blues and a lot of other blues, you might play the 7th of each, dominant 7 of each one of those. F7, B7, C7. At least for jump blues, that's usually the sound you go for. It's an F7 chord. It's a dominant 7 chord for all 3 of them. Well, that's not really a key, right? There's no key with 3 dominant chords in it. Doesn't exist. So it's not F major. It's not anything. It's F blues. So what's the approach? Well, you can do a lot of things with that. One of them is to play sort of Mixolydian, because when we're talking about modes, there's 7 modes, right? There's a mode for each degree of the diatonic scale.
As all our listeners know, because they've listened to our episode on it multiple times.
Right. But I just want to make so modes are, in my mind, other scales that exist, but they exist for each degree of a scale. So the 5th degree of a scale, right? So if we were looking at a scale that was, I guess, B flat, C, D, E, F. Okay. Mm-hmm. So F is the 5th degree of B flat major, if you will. So if it's B flat major, the 5th degree is the dominant. It's the F7, and it is the Mixolydian.
Because it's a big inversion.
Exactly. It's the Mixolydian mode of the B flat scale. So what do you play? You play B flat. We had this on our whole episode. Don't think of it as B flat. It's what it is a major scale with a flat 7. Okay. So if you think about F major, what's F major? F major is F, G, A, B flat. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. C, D, E, F. F major. Yes, that's F major. F major is F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. Now let's look at B flat. B flat is B flat, A, B, C, D, E flat, F, G, B flat. Oh my goodness. Blah, 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 blah. B flat.
Kalimar just blew his own mind.
Okay. B flat major. B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat. Okay. So they're almost identical except for the E flat. F major doesn't have an E flat. So when you play B flat major, it's just like F, but it's got a flat 7th. Okay. That's the Mixolydian mode.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way to think about Mixolydian. It's the major scale, and you take your seventh and you go down a half step. Okay. That's Mixolydian.
Yeah.
So you could do Mixolydian F, Mixolydian B, and B flat, and Mixolydian C when you're playing a jump blues, and it sounds cool. So you're kind of going across 3 different scales when you're doing that. But or you could play F major pentatonic, B flat pentatonic, maybe major, it kind of depends, and C pentatonic-y kind of thing also. You gotta be kind of careful there, because you might hit some notes that are a little bit off.
Yeah. I don't know. At a certain point, it just all becomes words to me.
Yeah.
Which I guess is what it is. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like we need, remember in like chemistry class or like science class, you'd have like the little model of an atom.
Yeah.
Right. And you had like the thing, and then you had the branch that took it to the electron or whatever. Obviously, I don't know much about chemistry, but you had the stick. It went into the Tinker Toy thing, and like you built models off of that, and you talked about the number of electrons and stuff they had. We need one of those for guitar. It needs to be like a 3-dimensional thing, because I can follow what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I can't apply it to save my fucking life.
No, I know what you
like,
mean.
It's like,
and I think it's about knowing what are the characteristic sounds of the particular style of music, right? Is sort of what it comes down to. And it's like, oh, this has people play around with the major third and the minor third here. Okay, so that's kind of not just pentatonic, minor pentatonic. And you hear a lot of the flat 7 in here. Like, this is very characteristic. And you hear the 6, and it's kind of like, oh, okay. So jump blues just hits on all these notes that aren't always in this or that pentatonic scale. Yeah. And you could find them. You could, right? You can just noodle and kind of, you could go with like F major pentatonic and then use chromaticisms. And that's probably the closest thing you're going to get there.
One critical question, though, that revolves around all of this.
Yeah.
Is, does this give you a whole new appreciation for the past couple months guitar lab that's going over minor blues?
I haven't. I need to listen to them. I haven't watched them at all.
No, I just joke, because it's always like it seems like it's just perpetually some sort of blues thing.
Oh my goodness,
and we're
Brad
always
Carlton.
like, oh great, thanks again for the amazing blues breakdown there, which is great, because he's a blues player, but
yeah,
it's like,
and he has
a little variety going on.
How long have you and I been subscribing to True Fire now? Is it a year yet?
It's got to be just about,
just about a year. Every free one. Because when you're okay, so Brian and I are both all access True Fire members, which is an online platform for learning. Oh yeah, we got to tell people my
Kalimar
code
has a secret handshake.
Yes, I can give you 30% off because they're awesome at True Fire, and they gave me my own code, Kalimar 30. Anyway, we'll leave that in the credits also. Brad Carlton, resident True Fire instructor, I think, essentially.
He's like the dean.
Yeah, every month has released a different blues, and it was like major blues, and now it's minor blues, and it's been like 5 different courses.
It's been going on for a while.
1 hour courses, right?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely take some time, right?
He pours his heart out about this stuff. Yeah. Like
he's great. That's a good cue for me, because I have this thing that I want to introduce as a bit on each episode, which I think is interesting and will tie in topically with what we're talking about. And that's just like some sort of line from a Brad Carlton lesson. So I got one that just totally lines up with this. So he starts every goddamn lesson talking about modes and the exact same stuff that you just talked about. And he talks about, why it's important to learn this and understand the relationship, so you know where you are, so you can do the right things and practice the things and train your ear and all this stuff. And he says something to the effect of, if you're picking guys for a band and you've got the person who's like the book nerd about about music and a theorician, right? Is that the fake word I made up for a music theory person?
That was a fake word.
Theorician.
Yeah.
Or you got a guy with really good ears. always take the guy with the ears.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Totally. I have definitely been that theoretical person. And then someone else is like, oh, was that just a 4 you played? And it's like, damn, dude, how do you do that? That is amazing. That is amazing.
Or the after the fact, they're like, yeah, that, whatever you accomplished there was cool. And I'm like, oh, did I do something intentional there?
Right. But you know what? So modes, I still stand by what I said in the episode. Like, you don't really need to learn them unless everyone else around you is talking about them, so you can understand what the hell they mean.
Yeah, I think conversant.
I think chord tones are really, really, really clutch. So knowing your chords and what are the notes in the chord. So learning triads, and then also 4-note versions of chords all over the place. And then yeah, I mean, that's where it is, right? Those are the sweet notes.
That's the fucking like tip off, right? How did you say it's the chord tone? So obviously you're following something. There must be a chord going on somewhere, right? That is already doing its own version of harmonizing, right? There's different voicings in that chord. Yep. And it's up to you to find the chord tone, and it doesn't have to be one of those, but it has to be in a good sort of logical relation to that. And as you just pull different pieces of the spider web, they snap into place in different ways. And so it just totally gives it away. Like, you can't be contextless like, I'm a really mixolydian player, because that doesn't mean anything. If you're not listening to the chord tones, if you're not listening to the overall build of stuff, then that doesn't really matter. Totally.
And in jazz, I have a jazz piano book I bought and a jazz theory book I bought because I was like, I'm going to learn jazz. They literally, basically, if you say a chord, any chord, especially the ones that have 4 notes or 5 notes in them, there is exactly a mode that connects to that chord, basically. Right. So, ergo, if you will, if you know chord tones, you know modes. You just don't call them modes. Yeah. Like, if you know the chord tones, you're golden. You're already playing modes.
Yep.
So, and I think it's like less stuff to have to keep track of while you're playing.
I'm trying to think of a good Descartes joke, but I can't. All right. Why don't we take a quick break? We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Having all the time in the world doesn't mean that you're productive, and having money in your bank account doesn't mean that you know what the future brings for you financially. But, as they say, it gets really easy if you know the rules, and that's where On Trajectory comes in. On Trajectory is an easy-to-use, high-fidelity financial planning tool that maps your income, investments, and expenses in a friendly graphical display. On Trajectory captures dozens of data points so that you understand how your decisions affect your finances, now, 2 months from now, or years from now when your kid starts applying to college. Built by finance nerds, OT is for anyone who wants to gain a clear picture of their financial future. It takes your guesses and turns them into educated, fact-filled, and data-driven scenarios so that you're prepared for life's bumps and detours. On Trajectory will walk you through the real-life questions to build your financial plan. With its helpful onboarding, you'll be up and running and ready to model anything. Taxes, equity, income, debt, you name it. Getting financial peace of mind requires a plan you can trust, and On Trajectory gets you to that plan, or plans, as the case may be. On Trajectory gives you complete control and flexibility and supports all the complexity of your real life. So find out where your money is taking you now. Go to www.grade43.com/OT and sign up for free today. That's www.grade43.com/OT. Thank you to On Trajectory for being a sponsor of Grade 43. All right, we're back again. We're doing that thing that podcasters do, which is after the break, they also point out that they're back.
They're back again.
So we're back again.
Twice in the same episode. Yeah.
It's like a
It was a refreshing break. You know, I got some water.
Grade 43, the sequel.
I jogged. Now I'm back.
I'm taking some probiotics right now just to be the best person I can be. So one thought what I wanted to wrap up with what we were talking about before. And I just made this note apropos of nothing, just thinking of what are we going to talk about and all this kind of miasma of different topics that we may or may not hit into. But I knew we were going to talk about your live playing. And then I had the thought of 3 words. And those 3 words were how we solo. We never talk about that. I don't like, we've talked about modes, right? We've talked about this, and we just continued to talk about modes.
Yeah.
I don't think we really talked about how we solo or how we improvised or whatever. So I just kind of like find that interesting because I don't know. We've certainly talked about the tones and the equipment and stuff like that. But we've never really talked about like okay, doctor, you're scrubbing up, you're on stage.
Yeah.
What's your approach? So you just gave some very specific approaches. So which are tuned into like music theory. And as I started to think about this, I was like, yeah, I don't even know. I can do a good solo every once in a while, like once every 34th time.
Right.
I can do like a good solo. And other than that, I just have to pick opportunities to where I can just like add some sort of sound. It's more about a sound. Like I was thinking, I used to play slide guitar with a Corona beer bottle in the band and with a wah pedal and all. We did like centerfold. We did the da, 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 with a wah pedal and an acoustic guitar.
And everybody loved it, right?
Yeah, and it was great. Or like Blister in the Sun. We used to do honky tonk Blister in the Sun with slide guitar. And so it was always just more about like, can I make like a complementary noise or something that can go with it? And I was like, oh my God, that's more shaker like than I thought. Like, yeah, I can noodle with some pentatonic stuff or some weird stuff, but when it comes down to it, the thing that I could contribute the most is like, that's right, I held that D power chord in a really long echo, you know?
But like, I realized at the jam that, man, the people that do it all the time, they kind of got it going on because I realized that when I'm soloing, if I make something for Instagram or I make something for us that I solo, it's on the 10th take or whatever, you know, it's not.
Yep.
Here it is. Oh, what was that key going to be in? Like I'm still trying to remember what key I'm in and what we're doing. And then, now you do a couple rounds. Oh, really? And then I am just like butchering the guitar. I am like, you know, I'm hitting the guitar like the guitar is my chest and I am a gorilla and the strings are my enemy and I'm hitting them as hard as I can. And it is the worst thing ever. And all of that went through. I could not sleep that night after I played at this jam. I was like, wow, I was just like a troglodyte, like playing this guitar like a cave person.
Is that a mode, troglodyte?
Yeah, troglodyte is a mode. And I got to chill out and I got to like play and like chill out. And then, you know, remember when we used to read guitar magazines, like Guitar Player and Guitar World, and you'd hear them, they'd interview people and they'd ask them like, what's going on when and it's like, I really think about a story or stuff that's happened to me or whatever. And then I just play notes and stuff. It's like, wow, really? That's like crazy. Some people in their guitar cases would have messages to themselves and stuff to like, just kind of like.
That's impressive. Cause for me, it feels like I'm typing on a foreign keyboard in a foreign language sometimes. Right.
Oh, that's totally what I did. Right. Cause I was like missing the string that I was even fretting. I was just like, oh, that was supposed to be P-O-L-I, and I wrote J-U-H-Y on that That's keyboard. Right. Like, I was not even close to the letters.
Where the fuck's the exclamation point? Where's the exclamation point?
Oh, my God. Where is that tilde? You try to write some French. You're like, how do I turn on the accents on this thing? Oh, my God. Yeah, so dude, that's so interesting.
Yeah, so I just think like that's weird when we think about like how we solo. Like I would never be a soloist, right? And I've seen any number of people, you know, play over music I've done and been like, just amazing and have just shredded and I've been like, wow, that was impressive. And they're like, I don't know, I wasn't really too happy with it. I'm like,
yeah.
are you fucking kidding me?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And now I want to sing because although this blues session kind of has me back to like, well, I don't need to worry about it because someone else wants to sing.
Yeah.
But when I've actually been to like 2 different live things, and the other live thing I went to, which was a jam session, is more impromptu. So it's kind of like, why don't you sing something? Pick a song. And it's like, oh shit, if we want to play this song, kind of got to have someone sing it. So maybe I need to learn to sing.
Huh.
And then it just changes everything even more. Playing the guitar is like a thing to complement your singing and the band, and maybe do a solo and whatever. And then you think like Jimi Hendrix, holy cow, his brain has
No
like 2
kidding.
brains.
Yeah.
Like what's going on there?
Yeah. Give me 4 chords to sing over. Like singing and playing a lot of articulate notes. That is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Or playing harmony to your singing
Yeah.
or something, like whatever. That's nuts. That's nuts. So that's such a great question. How do you solo? And I feel like we could have a whole episode about that, and thinking about like, I only think about 2 notes per string. So my phrases always end up a certain way, or I only think about blah, blah, blah. And so it all makes for certain,
I rely so much on this, my index finger and my ring finger. And like,
Right.
I'm so bad at doing anything that calls on the rest of my hand.
I know. Right. And then I'm thinking about blues, and it's like, well, I don't want to try to sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan, or maybe for Texas
you don't have
blues,
the strings for that.
Right. But like each style of blues has a different kind of style of soloing. So like, wow, what's that? So like these blues things can be really cool. And every week you can kind of just maybe pick something, but then you got to hope you're going to get to play that unless you're calling it. So it's, it's cool.
It is kind of neat that it's a standards based thing. Like no one's standing up going, I mean, I guess some people eventually do, but no one stands up and goes, we're going to do this blues song that I wrote last night.
Oh, right.
Right. So everybody's doing something which is more or less in a canon of work. So that just makes it kind of cool and accessible, because then you're just playing with the parts that are given you, and you can do whatever you want. It's cool. Yeah.
You got to kind of learn a library, right? And then you're in good shape. If you go to a blues jam, I think for a couple of years, you'll kind of have it. Yeah. Like you'll know the library pretty well, and you can keep working on it or whatever, or not work on it and kind of play the same thing over and over again. But that's okay too. You're having fun. That's what it's for. Like we
gloss over the most important point. Did you have fun, Kalimar?
Exactly. Right.
Was that a good share?
Right. Like you and I are 2 old dudes. Our social lives get small as you get older. Usually you make less and less friends or whatever. Yeah. So like, this is just a nice way to get out there. And
actually that's incorrect. It's fewer and fewer friends.
Oh, fewer and fewer. All right, Dad. Oh my goodness. Man. Oh my goodness.
All right, let's talk. We should talk about we should talk about instrument cables.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Briefly, ever so briefly.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like they're like bigger versions of strings, so we need to address them.
Did you end up buying 40-foot length strings so you could practice your
I did. I have it strung behind my house in the swamp.
So my buddy Keith, who listens to our podcast, indirectly gave me a critique because he said, hey, for you folks who have the plug on your guitar on the main surface of the guitar, how do we describe that, where the strings are and where
the face of the guitar,
on the face of the guitar. So some instrument plugs are there, and sometimes they're like on the side, right, or something. So my new guitar, it's totally like you plug it into the face of the guitar.
Yeah.
And he said, I just can't bear to see an instrument cable that is not at a right angle going into
that makes sense.
A guitar that's on the face, a plug that's on the face of the guitar. I don't have any of those. So I was like, ooh, okay, well, my instrument cables are all 20 to 30 years old. One of them's from Radio Shack. The other one is
realistic.
What?
Is it a realistic?
It just says Radio Shack on it. But it's like braided, it's nice. It's very cool.
That's a good find.
I think I paid $20 for it 20 years ago. I don't know. And then I have one from Guitar Center from eons ago, and it's nice too. And it was cheap, and it's like lifetime guarantee from Guitar Center. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I said, all right, let me get one of these. So now, of course, I'm older. I have some guac money. I am an academician. So I'm like, let me research instrument cables now. So I went down this rabbit hole of instrument cables, and I learned how to buy them a little bit better. And one of the tricks, so my friend's he's a sound engineer. He's explaining to me, like, for your instrument cable, you should look at the brand of the components. If you have a sense of these 2 or 3 brands, if these 2 or 3 brands are used to, and of course I didn't come prepared, so I don't have the 2 or 3 brands here, but we will put them in the notes. We'll put in the notes.
You can imagine what they are.
Right. Then you know that they spent the money to make a decent cable, and they're going to make a good cable, basically. So I followed his advice, and it turns out, basically, if you want a 20-foot cable, you're going to spend $50. Yeah. There's no way around it. It's going to be in that range, but it's cool because this one actually has a little no noise thing. I forget what the brand name of it is, but basically when it's plugged in, there's a little ring on the outside of it, which finishes the connection. And so then it sends sound to the amp. So when you unplug it, it actually disconnects the connection. So now if you touch the tip, there's no noise. So it's noiseless as soon as you unplug it.
Interesting.
Yeah. You don't get, like any of that kind of stuff happening.
Like we had at the beginning of tonight's episode.
Yeah. If you touch something and in your amp, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to destroy the speaker on my amp or something. So this is like, It's pretty nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So do you think, is the component portion of it more for the sonic qualities or more for longevity?
No, I think it's build quality. I asked him about like, does the material that it's made from, some swear by cables that are made by whatever, because they have less or more resistance and stuff like that, like that we've talked to.
Paging Dr. Shaker.
Yeah, because the longer your cable,
more signal loss you're going to get.
The more that's a fact.
Yep.
But generally, you're not going to have a cable that's long enough for that to matter that much.
Yeah. Unless
you try. Unless you're like, okay, I'm going to have a woundy up, like the little spirally cable.
Play across the English Channel.
50-foot cable. Yes, you're going to have a lot of signal loss. But if you're buying a 10 or a 20-foot cable, that's not as critical as like just the quality of the build of your cable.
Have you ever had personally where, and I never, when I was playing out, I never really paid attention. Like the best instrument cable was the coolest one you could get for the least amount of money.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So that's why you've got the Radio Shack braided one, because it was cool and it was the right amount of money and it still works today. So like that's
totally. And I got another buddy. So I'm on the True Fire Discord channel, and I brought up, I'm like, what instrument cable do y'all use? And this guy that goes by Savage, what's up, Savage? He's got a guitar repair shop too. He's out in Washington State, so check him out. He said, I buy local and I buy whichever one has a lifetime guarantee. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's pretty good. And he says, I tend to have less problems with anything like that.
Yeah. So I also recently purchased an instrument cable. And what was very weird is like I'd been seeing, and I got like some promotional email, and of course it was a PRS instrument cable. And I was like, whatever. But they talk about it like it's the most world-changing thing that you've ever gotten. And I got it for the right price. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten it.
Yeah.
I think I got it off Amazon. I was like, that's like half of what I should pay for this. And I don't know what the context was of getting it. And I got it, and my initial reaction to it was I was so annoyed with it because it just wouldn't stay straight. Didn't sound any better than anything. I think I actually had a pickup problem, which I attributed to the cable itself. But I got to say, after 4 to 6 weeks with it, and it's broken in a little bit, seems like it's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's about all I can say about it.
Yeah. I mean, the one I bought, in a way, I don't particularly think it's any nicer than my 20-year-old ones, because both of my 20-year-old ones have that like nice braided exterior. So they're like super rugged. And this is just like super thin, like that, like just black rubber cable, the one I just bought. So it's like, yeah, you know, at the end of the day, if I went and get something that's also braided on the outside and has all that, it is going to be $60-$70 nowadays. It's no joke. It's not $20 anymore.
No. And what's so weird then, like the question I was driving at, have you ever like experienced like I swapped the cable and it sounded so much better? And I'm sure I have, but I know like that's because I was using some bottom of the barrel $3.99 patch cable that was like a foot long from Radio Shack maybe. And it was the same material and it was curled up like an old telephone cord, right? So for some reason, and they changed that to a real cable. But I was just trying to think like, you know, is there anything like that seems to me, I'm not suggesting that one should do this, but it seems to me a market ripe for like these cables, because we're just talking about electricity and impedance and stuff like that. Yeah. These cables are the best. They're an integral part of my tone.
Oh, that's there. There's definitely.
Are there people like that?
Okay. Like there's a brand out there, a couple of brands out there that they're very much advertising that, like sound loss and whatever. And this is made with this and it's like that. And then you got the cheapos on Amazon. They're like, well, this is gold plated. There's plenty of those. And it's like,
until we change the name because of IP infringement in a month.
Yeah. And gold plated cables, I don't think gold plated connectors are making a big difference in my life. So, So Keith, I have a cable now and, yep, you'll be very happy to see it next time I record something on Instagram. So
nice. We'll be there to critique it.
Yeah. But that brings us to the topic, I guess. You know, you got the instrument cable and whatever you're playing out with. Are we going to talk about the article you read or the video you sent me about having kits in your life?
Oh, yes. So I don't think we necessarily need to go in depth here, but actually the instrument cable was what made me think of a kit idea.
Yeah.
So I'll post it in here. Another podcast I saw, one of the hosts posted this video, and it was about just like good ways to organize things. And the one example was like, don't throw jumper cables in the back of your car. Take like a little file box and cut your own custom length jumper cables and mount them in a box that's inside your engine box under your hood, so that when you need them, you can just kind of like pop them out. Like, this is the great idea of a kit. And it just gave me the idea that, we should totally think of some episode related content that's driven to like a kit. Kalimar, I'm sending you to the Outer Banks on vacation for 2 weeks. What is your vacation guitar kit?
Yep. No, I mean, I love the kit idea, like that article, that video, which is not music related. It helps you really streamline how you think about your house, because the other thing it says there that like piles are the enemy of like, that's like the biggest red flag that your house
and
needs.
You may only stack similar items.
Right.
That's got to be the biggest violation.
Right. And I mean, I'm looking in my office now and it's like, it's all stacks of random crap. And it's just like,
I kind of like it. They're like the pyramids, right? You know, I've got one big piece of paper, then another size piece of paper, then another size rectangle, and another size piece of paper on top of that.
But you can just take your whole life and be like, what's my toothbrush? Because when we're talking about kit, you have to kind of do a paradigm shift. We're not talking about a kit only for a trip. Like you mentioned, what's your guitar kit for going to the Outer Banks? But that's where my brain first goes, right? Like what's my toiletry kit for my trip or whatever.
Right. Your DOP kit.
What's your DOP kit, right? But then you just do that at home. It's like, what's my open the mail, send stuff to pay a bill? Because sometimes you do still need to send a bill. Do you have a kit for that? Or do you need to go to 4 different parts of your house to get a stamp, an envelope, a pen, and a whatever? Right.
Yeah.
So
where does that shit live?
Where does that shit live? And it's the same for music. It's kind of like, how do I get maximum enjoyment for minimum cost at home? And if I want to play out, what is that transition? Like the other day when I went to play out, I had to like get a bunch of crap together. It just wasn't ready.
Oh yeah.
And it's not the same as what I have in my room.
Just your guitar. You can't leave the house with just your guitar and your amp. As we mentioned, you need an instrument cable, right?
Yeah.
You need a tuner. We talked about that. Oh my God.
Right. A guitar stand, perhaps, depending on what you're doing.
Stand. Yeah. Probably need more than one pick.
Yeah. There's all this stuff, all these cables and whatever.
Strings in case you bring them. Man, this is a complicated hobby we picked.
Dude, I now have once again, I used to have this anyway. I have a gym bag in my closet now with my gig kit, to be able to show up at a gig. That's the other beauty of this is why the blues jam for me right now. That's where I want to be. It's where I can go for free. I can have a beer. All I bring is my guitar and picks. Oh, wait, and a tuner. Okay, maybe not just a guitar, but pretty close.
And a set of left-handed golf clubs. And
right. And a distortion pedal. No, they actually are very clear. Do not bring pedals. Do not bring amp.
We don't have time for this shit.
It's like you just need to plug it. And if you want all that, the same for you,
People are definitely not there for your tone.
No, they're not even there for your solo. It's so funny. I'm listening to people's solo and they're so serious. And I'm looking at the audience and they're like eating their food and drinking their beer. They could care less about your solo, which is fine. Right. Yeah. Because you think they are. And so who cares? For you, the pressure's on and it's great.
As long as you're providing the whole giant experience, right?
Yeah.
You're totally. filling in the background with credible,
and it's rhythm guitar, people.
With credible Mixolydian riffs and
if it's
flourishes.
A jump blues, right? If you're doing a minor blues, maybe don't go into that Mixolydian business.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Not unless there's a Hammond B3 organ.
So we talked kits, we talked all this stuff. It's really, I feel like the juices are flowing right now, but we do want to be conscientious of time. So I think we should get into something we've done in the past and we're going to do again now, which is True Fire Roulette.
Yeah, that's right. Teacher hasn't really liked our attendance record, so we're going to sign a little homework here.
Yep.
So Kalimar is going to assemble his subroutine, which I'm looking here now. Just hits what, F12? Is that what you do to go into debug mode?
Yep, you got to go into developer mode because the only way I can do this without peeking is to look at the divs, and not because they don't tell me what's the content there. And we've gotten a little more streamlined. Let's see, blues.
All right. Waiting with bated breath.
Ooh, here we go. truefire.com slide guitar lessons. Oh yeah. Slide supernatural blues. Lesson C824. I don't know if we're going to stick to lesson C824 necessarily.
C824. What star date is that lesson due on?
Welcome to the future.
Who's the instructor? Who do we get this time around?
This is Sonny Landreth's Slide Supernatural Blues. Yeah.
Slide Supernatural. That's cool. I think Shaker will appreciate that. I believe he enjoys the Sonny Landreth.
This is exciting. I know nothing about Sonny Landreth. And
I know the name and that's it.
As I'm scrolling down, we're talking about two different tunings even. Ooh. And G like golf and D like delta. This is not at all what I've been thinking about so it's fun fact. I just bought a slide because there's another True Fire and we're like total True Fire. Madeline at True Fire, you're the social media queen of True Fire. Y'all just got to sponsor our podcast because we do love True Fire, I guess. Ariel Posen, is another True Fire guy. And so I listen. Sometimes when I see a person I've never heard, then I'll go listen to them on some sort of streaming service or whatever. Man, that guy plays some mean slide. It's so good. And it's not like Delta blues, right? Because when we think of blues slide guitar, it's kind of like, Delta blues, Howlin' Wolf. Okay, cool. Awesome. But this is like contemporary rock, and he plays in standard tuning, and it just is really cool. And so I started to so then I'm like, okay, are there any Ariel Posen online tips about slide guitar? As a matter of fact,
just a few.
There's so many people that have interviewed him and are like, so if I want to start playing slide, what should I do? And there's the same, he's got the same thing like 5 times with different people, which is cool. He's very cool about it. And he's just like, yep, here's what you should care about.
That's cool.
So
I remember when we were dicking around with our version of Fat Bottom Girls. We did a little bit of the slide. So this is fun to get back into.
Oh yeah. So I've always used a socket wrench for slide. I literally
Metric or imperial?
Whichever one fit my finger. Years ago in Blacksburg, there was this guy that would come out and play at a bar called Champs. He played slide guitar and he stomped on a box, and his wife played a snare drum and a kick drum, and he played blues guitar, and it was like a great show. It was just like cool. Really great. And one time there was a snowstorm and he couldn't get out of Blacksburg. I'm like, dude, you can just crash at our place. So he and his wife crashed at my apartment. Nice. And then he's like giving me all these like, yeah, man, just a socket wrench and whatever and all this stuff. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I never really got into blues. I think it's probably because the socket wrench is like really heavy and just kind of like not for me. So I followed Ariel Posen's tips recently, and I'm really sorry to that guy who's now I don't remember his name, but this slide I bought is just great. So I'm excited about this.
That's cool.
The course we're going to do.
All right. Well, and also keep your eye on the lookout for a package from me, which I think may come in handy in this regard. I've already had like I mentioned, playing slide with a Corona bottle. I've done that before live, and I've had just a variety of slides. Never have done anything very good with them at all.
Open tuning? Were you playing Corona with an open tune guitar?
No. We would just do Blister in the Sun, and we did a honky tonk version of it. So I would just kind of like slide all around the neck, just to give it that kind of like lap steel kind of sound to it.
Yeah. Did you have the delay turned way up or something?
Exactly. Very
tripping.
Very affected kind of thing. And I have messed with it a little bit in open tuning, but I've not ever tried to do it the right way.
Yeah. I don't even know what the right way is. So this will be interesting. Yeah. So I guess look out for an episode where we're going to talk about our process for learning slide for this course. And then maybe talk about slides in general, what we're using.
And maybe try to do something in the fashion of Sonny Landreth.
Right. No promises.
That could be a good look for us.
Yeah. So keep an eye out for that. And, while we're on the topic, since we're kind of wrapping up, we definitely have a few interviews in the pipeline that we're excited about. We've gotten feedback from folks, something that folks are really interested in is like our process for doing things even. So we're excited about that too, as like sort of topics for episodes, like talking about what we just did, right? Like, how do you go get ready for a blues jam, or how do you do this slide guitar thing? And so we're excited about that kind of topic. And then, like I said, the interviews and kind of seeing what people are about in the communities that they're in and how they are kind of, connecting what they do to their musical community, I think is always sort of an interesting topic. People like that. So I'm excited about what we got going on. Season 2 of Grade 43 is getting kicked off today.
Exactly. So. Yeah, this is the album, second album, right there. Our sophomore effort.
We are, let me see here. Let me make sure I can do this. Yeah, we are back.
And also,
get off my lawn.
Of a human in general.
Yeah, totally.
Past month.
Understandable. I feel like Job, though. I even got poison ivy, dude. It's like, come on.
Oh, that wasn't the monkeypox.
It wasn't the monkeypox.
It's good.
But it's still here. It's like, I think I might be allergic to Virginia creeper. I didn't even know that was a thing.